We can even go more recent. What Diego Pavia did to his draft stock and reputation after the Heisman?
Because I saw clips and pieces. Did that man really have headphones on like that?
That wasn't even a problem. That man said, F Indiana, went to a club with a sign that said F Indiana, didn't congratulate Mendoza for his win, then had another post on Instagram that said, the voters. But it's still fam here. And then had to go because the fallout was so crazy, then ended up having to post up this big long apology about what he did that a lot of people are claiming to be that AI wrote for him. He didn't even write it himself.
Bro.
So because people were already on that side of he's real arrogant, he's real cocky, he has a bit of an attitude problem. He's basically Johnny Manziel 2.0 in other words. But because he's winning, people put up with you.
Yeah, that sounds like Johnny Manziel. That's exactly Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield when he was in.
The moment you lose the Heisman to a guy that won quarterback of the year and won college football player of the year, at this point, what did you do? How did you not connect?
Here's the thing. The Heisman was sealed. The Heisman was sealed when Mendoza beat Ohio State. The moment Indiana beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, signed, sealed, and delivered. Because you can't sit there and tell me that nobody else, nobody on that committee, nobody in that Final Four has a more impressive accolade at that point in time than going and beating the defending champs and #1 team. Because even if we look at their numbers, right, their numbers were respectable across the board. None of them, honestly, though, had a Heisman moment. Because when you think about it, we could go back to certain Heisman winners. Lamar Jackson with the hurdle, Johnny Manziel with the flip, Cam Newton with the run, Tim Tebow's with his run. We all remember these moments of when Heisman winners were like, hey, yo, they won the Heisman on that play right there. But because none of the players this year had that significant moment, because I'll be truthful, outside of the Ohio State game, I don't know a Fernando Mendoza moment. That's no shade to him. That's no shade to him. That's not saying he's a bad player or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know a Diego Pavia. I can't list a Diego Pavia moment off the top of my head that's like he should have won the Heisman. I can't think of those moments. Even last year with Ashton Jeanty, at least Jeanty had moments where I was just like, yeah, bro definitely has a case for the Heisman.
The only person that I know for sure had a Heisman moment, in my opinion, was Jeremiah Love.
And he's an Ohio State quarterback, ain't it?
Jeremiah Love's the Notre Dame running back.
Oh, the Notre Dame running back? Okay, my apologies.
He was the guy that ended up fourth in the voting. He had a 4-touchdown game. I think it was week 8 or week 6. 200-plus yards rushing, 4 touchdowns.
And that's sad because you remember growing up, bro, a game like that would have been all over ESPN.
And that
would have been all over.
That was the game. That was the game that solidified him even getting into the Heisman voting at all. Dude had 1,300 yards rushing, almost 1,400 yards rushing on the season. Then on top of that, quarterback-wise, Mendoza overall, the only real standout stat he had was the touchdowns. Outside of that, numbers-wise, Sayin and Pavia put up better numbers.
That's what I'm saying. None of them have – that's what I'm saying. When it came to the quarterbacks, none of them – and even the run backs, he had a 4-run touchdown game, which I'm going to push on the media for not highlighting that more because I didn't even know about that. They didn't have those significant moments where that are going to be replayed over and over. So what does it come down to then? Your resume and how it looks, because all y'all accolades are similar in numbers and statute. So Fernando Mendoza had the benefit of being like, you know what? I just beat the #1 team in the nation, and I had a good game when I did it. Because if you look at that game versus Ohio State, and let me pull it up. When we look at it, Where they at?
Because like the only thing that really held Jeremiah Love back statistically was his receiving yards. Because overall, I mean, 199 carries for 1,372 yards, 18 touchdowns, we're averaging 6.9 yards a carry.
Because Mendoza,
then with 27 receptions, 280 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So 21 touchdowns total.
Because Mendoza goes 15 to 23 with a touchdown and an interception for 222 yards. Saying in that same game goes 21 to 29 for 258 with a touchdown and an interception. So it's like Mendoza didn't have a bad game. He didn't. They just won. It just came down to it. That's when the Heisman Trophy got solidified. Right there. And I know Pavia can be mad all he want, X, Y, and Z. It's like, bro, you could be mad, you could be upset, so on and so forth. That's not the way to go about it. Like, I get you felt like you should have won the Heisman. Nobody's mad at you for thinking the way you think. It's how you handle yourself afterwards. It's how you conduct the business. The same way we were talking trash about Notre Dame on this podcast last week, because the moment they got eliminated from the CFP, the very next day they say we're not playing in a bowl game. You look like a sore loser.
Let's call
it for what it is. You look like a sore loser who's being a brat and didn't get his way.
Because check this out. So out of the 4 finalists, the 3 quarterbacks, this is their stats. Fernando Mendoza threw for 71.5% for 2,980 yards, 33 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, 69 carries for 240 and 6 touchdowns. Diego Pavia, 71.2% for 3,192 yards, 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 152 carries for 826 yards and 9 touchdowns. Julian Sand from Ohio State, 78.4% completion percentage, 3,323 yards through the air, 31 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Just no rushes. So to be honest, had Julian Sand had rushing yards, he might have won it.
And that's why I say it came.
Julian
was gonna win if Ohio State won that game. Because off numbers alone, Pavia has the best combined of the two, right? But Vanderbilt wasn't 1 and 2 in the nation. So then you have number 1 Ohio State, number 2 Indiana, head-to-head for the Big Ten championship. You have Mendoza saying, whoever comes out of this game winning, whoever wins this game is going to win the Heisman. If Ohio State wins that game, wins.
You know what's funny about that? Had Julian Sand won that game in Indiana, Diego Pavia would have won the Heisman.
I don't think so. I think Sand would have got
Diego Pavia ended up second in the voting. He was second all season long.
I don't think so. That's what I'm saying. I still think Diego Pavia would have finished second. I think it just would have flipped between Sand and Mendoza.
I don't think so. The only reason why I don't think it would have flipped between Sand and Mendoza is because, one, Ohio State was already number 1. Julian Sand was basically throwing to literally the best receiver in the nation all season long. And on top of that, all he had to do was just make sure he got the ball to where he needed to go. To where now, argumentatively, Diego Pavia is going to be more impressive because, one, the wins that you're getting are getting it in one of the toughest conferences in the nation with the SEC. And you're doing it at Vandy with one of the worst teams statistically and historically in the SEC. You have them ranked for the first time I think, in a long time for them. Then the Indiana argument is with Indiana hasn't had a winning season like this since the 60s. Ohio State's expected to win the Big Ten. Ohio State's expected to be number 1 in Big Ten. Sure, not going to sit here and say Julian Sand did not put up big numbers, because he did, but you have the best receiving core in the nation against some of the weakest competition you've gone against in years until you hit Indiana.
So I'm just gonna ask. Go ahead. By that logic, should Bryce Young have won his Heisman?
Honestly, I think Bryce Young should have won the Heisman because who did he lose to?
He won his Heisman. I'm saying, should he have won the Heisman? Because because that Heisman was, let me see, 2021 Heisman Trophy was, it was Bryce, Aiden Hutchinson, Kenny Pickett, and CJ Stroud. And you're saying because he was throwing to the best receivers in the country, which Alabama did have, Alabama had him, and Ohio State had him too. I'm asking, should Bryce Young have won that Heisman?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Bryce Young should have won that Heisman. Because if they would have given it to CJ Stroud.
Should Joe Burrow have won his Heisman?
Joe Burrow was dead. You would listen. Joe Burrow was hands down.
He had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. You see what I'm saying?
He did. He did. I agree to the argument of, based off, if I'm just saying they had the best receivers in the nation. I get that. But Joe Burrow, the way Joe Burrow was playing, even if they weren't catching like they were catching, Joe Burrow was still ridiculously impressive.
He was.
Like, you couldn't deny Joe Burrow was gonna win Heisman. However, I get your argument. I do. And like I said, and the reason why Julian Sayin was already third in the Heisman voting was because Ohio State winning like they were winning against the competition they were going against was boring. Sure, if you would have beat Indiana, if they would have beat Indiana, it still would have fed into that same narrative of, okay, it's Ohio State beating Indiana.
And that's why I say,
like, people wouldn't have been impressed with
it. They would have given it to. That's why I genuinely think and it's the way, and I don't think so. That's why I'm really finicky about. I get what your argument is. The way it looks, the optics, it looks more impressive from Pavia doing it at Vanderbilt. But because Ohio State was the number 1 team in the country, and because Mendoza and Indiana was the number 2 team in the country, Sayin beating the number 2 team, the best competition outside of his own team, and winning and outperforming the other team's Heisman level quarterback, Heisman finalists, because let's keep it for what it is and let's keep it a buck. Pavia, as great of a season as he had, does not have a game going against another Heisman finalist. Mendoza and Sayin having that game against each other, just the way it lined up, helps whoever wins. And I genuinely think what would have happened, Pavia still would have finished second, because you can't deny the man's numbers, and you can't deny that he's doing this in the SEC at Vandy of all places. You better put him at least second. Like, respect where respect is due. But the winner of that game, in my heart of hearts, I get why you say Pavia would have won, and I could respect it. I respect it 100%, and I understand the argument. For me, just Myron, the winner of the Indiana-Ohio State game was going to determine who finished first and who finished third. Pavia had second on lock, unless both of them just had a bad day where they threw for only like 100 or 110 yards. Then Pavia's running away in first.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing. Even in this win, they weren't impressive. Either one of them. They were both bad.
I mean, 220 and 250 ain't horrible.
When you got guys that have been throwing 300 yards most of the season, well, except Mendoza, because he didn't throw like that.
But they're playing the number 1 and number 2. They're playing the top 2.
Here's the thing. I get that. I get the title card looks good. I get the title card looks good. I get that. The problem is, when you saw Indiana versus Ohio State, what was the first thought that came to your expectation wise?
I hope Indiana wins. Like, if I'm being honest.
Here's the word. You said hope. So that means your expectation was low key that Ohio State's about to go in here and dog walk Indiana regardless.
No, my expectation was like I did say I hope Indiana wins. My expectation was Indiana may have a chance, but I feel like the league and everybody else, Ohio State's going to find a way to win.
Still expected Ohio State to win.
Yes, I will say that. That's all. Yes,
that's what I mean by like it's not. It wouldn't have been impressive. It wouldn't have been okay. Yeah, sure, it's 2 Heisman candidates, but it's like, dude, is it really that impressive though? Because it's still also Indiana versus Ohio State.
It is, but it's not.
Remember, because we talked about this all. See, we've talked about this before. Just like I said, when you saw LSU lost to Vandy, it's LSU losing to Vanderbilt. Sure, Pavia is good. We've seen it. We saw the numbers.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it's brand recognition?
It's brand recognition.
Okay.
Because it's a lot of this is brand recognition. Because once again, we saw Alabama is in the playoff off brand recognition.
But at that point,
they don't deserve to be there.
But at that point, I think that's where that's why I think that actually helps my argument. If we're going brand recognition, being at Vandy, and like you said, Vandy not being good like this, Indiana has low-key been on the come up the last few years. People have been watching Indiana.
They have.
And so
once again, brand recognition wise,
Ohio State, Indiana is going to get more love than Vandy.
But I said it's Indiana's love to lose though. That's what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, if Ohio State wins, everybody's like, "Oh, it's Ohio State won." Whatever. but with Indiana winning, it's like, "Oh, Indiana won. Hey, this is about to be this is good. This is big stuff." That was going to be more in Mendoza's favor, regardless. It wasn't like that swing wasn't going to swing saying enough to beat out Pavia, in my opinion.
I think it would have because the brand of Ohio State, but I get what you're saying. Optically, it shouldn't.
But that's what I'm saying. Because of the brand of Ohio State, that's why I don't think it would have swung saying enough to beat Pavia out in the voting. Reason why, because once again, brand recognition wise, you expect Ohio State to beat Indiana.
I got you. I'm
even if it's a struggle, you expect Ohio State to win. You see every game that Ohio State plays throughout the year, you expect Ohio State to win most of those games, and the only real struggle you expect them to see is against Michigan every
year. Michigan got their own struggles right now. Oh man.